Okay, let's give it a second to stream. Hello, my friends, and welcome to Towards the Light podcast episode 2. We are blessed to be joined with our brother of light, Aaron Abke, and we have a very exciting, very powerful hour or so packed. We just love Aaron from so many angles, the way he teaches and the way he brings his very humble, in our opinion, way of teaching to the to the population. We regularly steal little nuggets of his to use. But I'm going to have Kelly, my partner in crime and my cosmic counterpart, just introduce Aaron with his full bio, and then we're going to bring him onto the show.
Yes, absolutely. So grateful to have you all with us tonight. It is episode 2, and it is the 222 portal. Big energies tonight. We're so grateful to have you, Aaron. Many of you are familiar with him, but if you're not, he is a paradigm shifting spiritual teacher that delivers a fresh new perspective on self-realization through his teachings, through the law of one, non-duality, and spiritual intelligence. So Aaron is providing humanity with tools and knowledge and practices to aid the collective in ascension and really in fourth density consciousness. So Aaron is doing big things in the spiritual community. He is currently featured on a series on Gaia called Channeling a Bridge to the Beyond. And he is one of the leading spiritual teachers in the community as far as we're concerned. So Aaron, this brings me to my first question. I did just stumble upon a video of you. I think it was from 2017, you said. And I was surprised to hear you say that you actually worked for Google at the time. And I think you said you were a bodybuilder. And I'm thinking to myself, this is just 6 years ago, doing the math. How did you go from working at Google to being on Gaia in just 6 years' time?
Yeah, that's a fun question and interesting to think about, actually. I didn't actually work for Google. I was a contractor that worked at Google's campus as a personal trainer. So I got access to a lot of the Google perks, but there was a lot of areas that were like, you don't have the badge required to get in here type of thing. So that was kind of cool, like working for the CIA or something. And what happened from there was basically just that I went through this really radical, very fast spiritual awakening, which was there was a buildup of, 27, 28 years of my life where I was a devout spiritual seeker, but it was always in Christianity for the first 23. And then the next 4 or so after that, when I left Christianity, I was just I'm desperate to know what the truth is, So I always had a heart to encounter the divine, but it so happened at that time of my life when I was working at Google where that experience happened up on the balcony of the gym I worked at. And it just kind of shifted everything for me because it took away any desire to do anything but figure out how to get back to that state again. Once you've tasted the heavenly state, it's very hard to go back to hell again and just be satisfied, right? So I had this burning passion to figure out how to ground that state permanently and not just a one-time experience. And I would say that if you want answers bad enough and you have a sincere enough desire, the universe loves to give you the right answers,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, because I think a lot of people are there right now where they're kind of stuck in maybe a job that they don't enjoy doing, but they're doing it just because they feel like they need to do it, or they haven't quite figured out how to bridge the gap into doing something that they love. So I'm just curious how you went from, being this bodybuilder, working for a big corporation, having contract work, and now you've kind of built up this platform where you're doing great things. And it seems like you're doing what you really love to be doing, which is just really being embedded in the community and being hands-on teaching and bringing so much of that.
Yeah, talking to people like you about topics like this. Absolutely. It was all something that just kind of surfaced out of my passion. It was never something I had a plan to do, or like I never would have thought that I had any kind of gifting for teaching or speaking publicly or any of that. I was always a music guy, And the one thing I hated about leading worship was that I had to actually talk to the audience at some point and not just like sing them through a song, but like actually welcome them and all that stuff. I felt uncomfortable. I didn't like being the center of attention with a mic in my face. So I would have laughed at you if you said, this is what I'm going to be doing with my life. But lo and behold, I just got really, really passionate about, hey, I feel like I can make some videos that will help a lot of people with the stuff that I've been helped to learn. And that sounds like a lot of fun. And so I just started making YouTube videos, always assuming it was just going to be a side hobby. And then, lo and behold, one of the videos goes viral, and then a second one does a week later. And all of a sudden I'm getting a ton of followers, and the first idea sparks of, oh, this could be like a thing I could do with my life.
Yeah.
So it was only after the fact that it really came through that I even realized that's where my path was heading. And so I think sometimes it can unfold just like that. It's like if you get hot enough with something, if you're passionate enough, the universe is going to find somewhere to plug in that passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So you sort of host a lot of courses and things like that, some wonderful stuff that you do with your platforms, and we'll come to that towards the end. You guys should go and check all of Aaron's platforms out. Give us a temperature check on what you think people are feeling and what state they're in right now. Are we in a very rapid awakening state, or there's still a lot to go? Like, where would you say the collective is at right now?
Yeah, it's an interesting question to think about. I definitely have my perspectives, but I like to look at everything, or I wouldn't even say that. I kind of naturally look at everything from a law of one perspective now. And when I look at the kind of strife and division and sort of collective insanity manifesting, the amount of corruption that's manifesting into public awareness at such a rapid pace, it's almost like we're all in a bad trip together on ayahuasca. These are all signs that humanity is ascending very fast. Because when you ascend fast, it's felt as pain. And that's something people don't realize about ascension, by the way. The net benefit of your ascension comes much later, and it's very much worth, the juice is worth the squeeze for sure. But you better believe you're going to go through a long season of growing pains, right? As you ascend your consciousness, you're not used to being at these levels of awareness yet. You're still kind of finding your footing, and you're like an infant learning to walk in the field of consciousness. So if you try to rush that process too much, if you expect too much of yourself, which we all inevitably do, spiritual growth can be a very painful thing. And the key is it doesn't have to be. And it doesn't have to be is what I'm interested in helping people see and teaching people to understand, which is really bringing the heart into the equation, the path of the heart, the path of love, service to others, like the Law of One teaches, to me it's increasingly powerful the more I teach it and practice it and learn about it. It's one of those things that never stops deepening, and it's the realizations it can bring to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for you, then, you've been just shattering and breaking paradigms your whole life, because our first conversation, you were explaining how you really did leave the religious setting. You left the background of like being even a pastor's son and a pastor yourself, preaching and being up there. So you had already kind of left that environment once. You left the corporate environment to pursue your passions now. So it's something that seems to, does it come easily for you? Does it come more naturally for you? Or are you just a really disciplined person? Because I know a lot of people struggle just switching their mindset and their perspective on things. So
yeah, you certainly have to love it to make the switch, right? It has to be the juice has to be worth the squeeze to you, right? So it has to be something you love enough that like anyone who starts a business will tell you this, who's been successful will tell you, like, you gotta just try and try again until you make something work. Like there's no guaranteed success in business. You got to earn it. And that's just part of the game. Right. And if we start to think more like that with consciousness too, it's like, look, if you're still suffering, it's because you're still believing in illusions. You just got to accept that. Right. And where's the next illusion? What am I not seeing still? What's a better perspective I could have? When that's your kind of just modus operandi, because you just live that way. You practice it every day. It has its own inertia. and it has its own momentum at a certain point where it just takes over by itself. And you're like, yeah, there's just an awareness that's seeing everything. I'm not really doing anything. It's not like all this work and effort anymore. And you realize the only sort of thing I'm tasked with, which like me, the inner being, the real self, the only thing I'm really tasked with is to love everything. Like that's the one thing I have to do, is just be in a loving relationship with everything I interact with. And I am being the true divine self that I am. So it's like the one medicine for everything is in the heart. And spiritual ascension can be painful and long and challenging when we just try to do it with the mind by learning concepts, right?
Oh, yeah, I get it. So you're just being this love and attracting all the goodness. And it's all the little things that you put into your life, the teachings, the practice, the daily thoughts that allow you to achieve and just be in that natural state. It's more natural than a resistance, a fight.
Yeah, well, it's kind of
like you just got to actually do it, right? You just got to do the things you know and apply them. Yeah,
it's the two-way channel, isn't it? It's the doing the work, and you made a great video on this recently, pouring all the good water in to stop trying to take all the stuff out, just pour good water in, and the rest will take care of itself. And in that component is letting go of old beliefs. And quite often it can be because we hold on to things, don't we? Like the bald eagle grabs the fish, and sometimes they get found downstream dead with the fish in their grasp because they can't let go of the fish sometimes. And it's very interesting. We seem to be in that place as a species that we struggle to let go of some things more than others quite often. And we're entering into that space where everything sort of becomes so much more fluid, and the labels, the descriptions of things, even our own names, the vibrational sound complexes, as Ra says, will become not obsolete, but they become so much less prevalent in our everyday life. So how do you think we're going to deal with that? Because I agree. I think the lights are coming on at an alarming rate, notwithstanding the solar activity and everything else that's sort of flooding us right now. There's going to be a sort of evolve, or you're going to be in a little bit of trouble kind of thing, isn't there?
Evolve or die.
Yeah, you said that before. How do you see it playing out with sort of the solar events and things? Because I know Ra had said that we entered 4D in 2000.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that, Aaron, because I'm just getting into the Law of One series, and I know you're kind of more of an expert. I'm sure you've read it more than once. He mentions in the very first channelings in 1981 that we are in the harvest. So like he made it seem like it was happening then already. He also mentions the planet moving into fourth density consciousness. He says in about 30 years. So I'm trying to do the math, and I was thinking that was around like 2012. So that was just kind of a big year in general, was 2012. And that was when our planet was supposed to move into fourth density consciousness. So I was just going to ask you, like, is a harvest something that you think takes a long time? Is it something that already happened, or is it something that's still taking place right now? Because this is what seems like the time. This is what seems like the Great Awakening.
Yeah, interesting questions. In the Law of One, the harvest is, so like when Ross says the harvest has begun, he means that all the souls from higher densities who want to wander on planet Earth, and very late stage third density souls that are like, I just need one more good lifetime and I'm on to fourth density. Let me go incarnate at a really opportune time in history where I can really be of service. So any souls in that spectrum who want to be a part of the transition to fourth density and help it go in the positive direction, they would have had to incarnate, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years before the actual switch happens, so that they can be like a fully functional adult on the planet with lots of spiritual development, who can then actually play a part in the planetary transition, which all of us here are doing, right? So if we were born on 2012, it's going to be 2032 before we're of any real use, spiritually speaking, because we're still developing at that age, right? So souls are like timing it, like the timing window is important, which I think if we're all here right now, we can all say our souls nailed the timing for sure.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And that really resonates. Like, again, David was born that year that they were doing those raw channelings. So if that's what he means, like the harvest is now, us souls are coming in the 80s and early 90s to be of this. I don't know if you agree with this statement, the Kundalini Awakening. Do you think that can happen at any time? Because it seems like around like age 30 or 40 is when it kind of peaks for a lot of people from some of the readings that I've done.
Yep. Yeah, it's now that our planet is technically in a fourth density frequency range, then fourth density correlates to the heart chakra, the green ray energy center. And Kundalini energy really is just green ray energy. But it's the heart chakra, which the average human being doesn't have in activation unless they begin to really develop a sense of spirituality or morality or even religion. The green ray can start to open as someone learns to practice love and forgiveness and spiritual virtues. Other than that, you're not going to awaken that chakra because that's all it does. It's just the chakra of unity with others and shared being with all and unconditional acceptance, right? That's all the heart does. So unless you're on a spiritual path, you're not going to activate that chakra. And it's not even just, can I get it to activate every so often when I'm truly loving someone? But it's like, can I open it and keep it open and actually live with love imbued into my color of consciousness permanently? Kundalini comes into activation when someone is putting that kind of demand on it. When you're putting that kind of demand on Kundalini to awaken, hey, I need more love energy in here because I'm trying to love things a lot. She awakens right away. So it can happen for people who are just on a path of like bhakti yoga and they just spend all day worshiping God in the fields and love and stuff. They have Kundalini awakenings all the time just from the sheer passion of their love. And all the way to people in not just yoga, but sometimes people fall off of horses or fall down the stairs or get into a basketball injury and it sets their Kundalini off. It's really just a kind of neurobiological phenomenon that is a response to the charge that is being built up in the energy centers. If enough charge builds up in the root chakra, it will eventually have to discharge, just like a lightning bolt does with a cloud in the earth, right? And it does so by shooting it out of the crown chakra. And we call that a Kundalini awakening, most of us. We think that's what it is. But that's just one little component of the actual process of a Kundalini ascension, right? The real process is we're trying to take that energy higher up the chakras systematically from energy center to energy center. And we do that by purifying those parts of us that energy center represents. So once Kundalini is awakened and you're like, okay, I want to fully open my green ray, my heart chakra, then you got to start really practicing love and forgiveness and service to others and things like that to open that chakra. There's going to be parts of you that are in resistance to being of service to others still. There's going to be people you judge from your past that you need to forgive. And so you do that, the green ray is not all the way on yet, right? Once you've done that, next you start thinking about authentic expression. Where am I withholding my truest self? Where am I not being honest with myself about things? How can I be more authentic and radiant in my nature? Those are throat chakra issues, right? So now you work through those kinds of catalysts. So as this process goes on for years and years and years, you'll know where Kundalini is in your energy centers based on what your sort of primary spiritual catalysts are at the time. And that's the only real way one can measure whether or not they've actually taken Kundalini all the way to the crown, which is like the completion of that full journey. And if one does that, they technically become a fourth density being in this lifetime. And there have been, a number of beings who've accomplished this. You prayed to a bunch of them before we started: Christ, Buddha, Krishna, Yogananda, Babaji, Maharaji. We could go on and on. These were fully crystallized beings, meaning they made it through all seven. They raised Kundalini through all seven energy centers and reached that kind of singularity state of total God consciousness. That's the spectrum that's available to all of us right now in this life. And when you know that that's sort of the game you're playing, to me, I think it just inspires tremendous desire to play the game well.
Yeah, and you sort of have less and less desire to sort of plug into the narrative and find out what's going on, and feeding the consciousness with all that what I would call misaligned information. But it's all necessary for different reasons. But yeah, I continue to have amazing activations, and those of you in the chat, let us know if you have had similar things. It's all good to share this information. So much so that when I did the Age of Pandora podcast a couple of years ago, I called our second series The Halls of Presence, Whispers of the Divine. And it was because I was starting to have these moments where it was like all my conscious thought or the noise or the chatter would just literally would disappear. And I would be in this, it felt like I was in this giant hall of the gods, is the best way I can describe it. And everything felt just absolutely amazing. I even went to the gym and worked out with these feelings. And they're difficult to describe. They're so pure. It's such a blissful energy. And I continue to have them now. But
if you know, you know.
Yeah, you do. It's so true. So where do people begin? Because I know a lot of people that have got no idea what we're talking about. They're just getting into spirituality. Where do you begin with getting on this path up to where you're talking about, where the crescendo happens?
Where do you begin? Well, that is a good question, because in a sense, you begin exactly wherever you are already. I like the way that Nisargadatta would talk about, Brahman, the absolute reality. He called it the beginningless beginning. And I like that phrase because it's like, that's kind of the nature of God, right? It's the beginningless, meaning it never really, there was no point in time where it started, but it's the always beginning. God is always creating itself and evolving from all eternity, right? And so that's kind of like our nature too. And so there's never a point technically where someone starts their spiritual path. Because even if you were, a heroin addict on the streets of LA or something, and spirituality was the last thing on your mind, well, every needle you shot in your arm was still getting you closer to the moment where you were going to have your rock bottom and come to Jesus moment that turned everything around. And then you found a 12-step program and then progressed from there. By the time you're 60, you're teaching other people how to get free of addictions, right? What put you on that path? When did that path start? There's no way you could say it didn't start when you were still the addict, right? That's where the most transformation arguably took place. So yeah, it's like everyone's on a spiritual path. Whether they know it or not is the question.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. No, I love what you said. It makes me feel like, this is really what the Great Awakening is all about. It is just that nudging that something is off and, we need to make changes to become the people that we truly want to be, that are going to make us really, truly happy. So this, this shift and this call to move into fourth density really is the Great Awakening, is this big shift that we need to make. It's just get out of our heads, like you say, get out of the ego and the identity and all the separation and just move into that space of love. And I think a ton of people are really feeling that right now. It just seems like energies are intense and it's a bit chaotic, and people are starting to see some of the deception and maybe some of these agendas that didn't seem so obvious before. Times are tough for a lot of people when you look around, and so it's an important message to really just lean into that spirituality and lean into God, right?
One thing I struggle with maybe is the wrong terminology. One thing I'm curious about is it gets thrown around a lot in the enlightened community, I guess, is this new earth split. And some say that some of Dolores Cannon's narrative teachings, conversations dictate, and this could have shifted, but that there will be a visible split of some kind. And others say that it will be much more emergent than that and much more inclusive. And I don't think any of us will really fully know that until we go through it. But what's your viewpoint on that? Do you think there will be, because there's so much vitriol, negative, misaligned energy that people are still acting out with. So what do you think is going to happen in this sort of predicted split?
Yeah, it's interesting because I do actually think that is somewhat accurate, but it would sound counterintuitive to one with a spiritual mindset of like, oh, that can't be how the universe works, but it actually kind of is. And the Law of One explains why really well, because it says that every planet, every person, every particle, everything has to have a charge one way or the other, positive or negative. The whole universe is literally nothing but electromagnetic energy, right? Electro positive, magnetic negative. So there's just those two polarities. So everything in the universe has to be polarized to exist in the polarized universe. So polarity is something that most, human beings don't have any awareness of, right? The pair of opposites that you can see in everything, masculine, feminine, heat and cold. We could go on and on. When you start becoming aware of polarity, then you start to actually become more aware of the choice that is available between the two polarities. And the Law of One again says the positive polarity is the service to others path. The negative polarity is the service to self path. So just as it comes to a point that every individual person will have to fully choose one of those two polarities before they can exit this realm of consciousness and go to the fourth density, from third to fourth. You have to choose your polarity. And that's kind of like the only prerequisite happening here is polarity choosing. So first of all, when you know that, then you have a great incentive to make spirituality an important part of your life, right? But it also allows you to see why evil and the dark side operates the way that it does and what it's going to take from us to light up the darkness on our planet. And that is that there is a splitting off of positive from negative and a cleaning out of all that is negative. Slowly over time, not all at once, but in the grand scheme, it'll probably happen pretty quick, I think. But like to become a positively polarized planet means you've removed all the negative polarity, right? And so the good news is actually that the Law of One says the source doesn't need you to be 100% service to others and 0% service to self. It just needs you to be 51% service to others and 49% service to self. So just a 2 degrees difference, and the universe says, okay, you can graduate and go to fourth density. There are some implications on how well you score, by the way, but what's important is that you graduate just at 51%. That sounds not that challenging, and in one sense it's not, but the negative polarities graduation has to be 95% or more negatively polarized. And you're like, whoa, that sounds way harder than the service to others path. And technically it is, like mathematically, but the reason that the Law of One says those are both equally tough test scores to get in terms of polarity. The 51% positive is just as hard as 95% negative. And that's because we live on a pretty damn negative planet. The planet itself is extremely negative in a lot of polarizing ways. So it's easy to go negative. We have an ego built into our brain, which is a kind of service to self taskmaster, always beckoning us to take from others and keep things for ourselves and all the separation stuff. So we have a service to self pilot in our brain talking to us all the time. And the planet itself has a ton of corruption on it right now. So it's like, well, if you can't beat them, join them, right? It's putting consciousness in a tough spot. So you're only going to go towards the light if you want it with all your heart, if you want it more than anything. Because the negative is so heavy and dense on this planet that if you don't want truth really bad, you're just going to get kind of swallowed up into that black hole of insanity and separation. And boy, howdy, isn't that what we see happening in the social stratosphere these days in the culture? Just an unraveling of psychology right before our eyes in so many ways, not just on one side or the other, but yeah, it's like this is the result of a really fast ascension. Is you're going to see really kind of intense stuff like that manifesting.
Mm.
So it sounds like we're in it. We're in the two worlds right now. We're
in it,
in the choice, and that's what we talk about when we say humanity's greatest shift. Like, we're in it.
Yeah. I talk about this so much. The movie Midnight Special. Have you seen that movie?
I haven't.
It's a beautiful depiction of how dimensional reality works, in my view. And there's this boy who, you guys are probably sick of me talking about this show, but whatever. There's this boy, he goes on this, he sort of is in this quite Christian group, I guess, and his parents split up, but his dad is looking after him. He's sort of the custodian of the child. And then the movie follows kind of a bit of a dark feel to it, but the boy goes with his dad because they've got these prophecies that he is going to save the world, kind of thing. So they take him away from this group, and of course the intelligence agencies get involved, and because they know all about this, and they're tracking him, and there's this chase on throughout the whole movie. But they get to the point where he has these activations, and all of a sudden his eyes will open and just flood the room with light and shake the room to just crazy stuff. And this goes on to a point where at the end where he has this massive, I guess you would say, full Kundalini activation, and there's this huge bubble of light. There's a big wide angle on it. And as it sort of comes to calm, you see this, what would be probably a fourth or a fifth density, another world that starts to become visible from people who are in the Matrix, I guess. And they start seeing these crazy structures, and these light beings come in, a humanoid form, quite tall, but very, very, very bright light. And they take him, and he becomes one of them, and they take him off. And then the curtain kind of comes back, and everything goes on as normal. It's very, very cool the way they do it.
Just implying that second world already exists on top of our world, kind of thing. We just can't see it because we're not vibrating in the same density, but it becomes visible for a brief moment.
Ra actually says that the fourth density is not visible to the third density unless it chooses to be. So they could step down their vibration enough to where we can see them. But in true color green, fourth density, they could be invisible to us if they wanted.
Yeah, which is why sort of interactions that I've had with angelic beings or masters or what have you, they're typically in an ethereal construct. They're in a high state of theta, or even in the dream space. To have them come in and be a physical body to you, although it happens, is quite rare because they have to come down several layers just to be in that physical presence.
Yes, exactly. It's not comfortable for them.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, as we start vibrating into this fourth density way of being, I know that when you're in the green ray and you're in that heart space, it is easy and you are vulnerable to be pulled back in through fear, because it's got such a, deep, grip on us. And I think that that's what's happening with this whole Matrix 3D system at this time. It's anchoring us in because we've been part of the system so long, and so many of our patterns exist within the system. Do you think that we have to actively unplug from it, or do you think it's just something that's going to fall away naturally as we're able to start raising our consciousness and vibrating in that 4D? Because I know that you've talked about like common law and things like that. So do you think it's important to still, be trying to get our like legal birth certificates and like practicing our rights and all of that side of things? Or do you think that consciousness is just all we need to focus on and the rest of it will kind of just fall away?
I love this question. When we talk about spiritual growth, the conversation of when have you truly, healed something or transcended something, the conversation doesn't end until we get to the point of your actions in life. Who you are being in the world is the greatest indication of your spiritual progress. So you can't just be like, well, I learned a concept that my thoughts are illusions or whatever. So I don't need to work on my mind anymore because I heard that it's an illusion, right? And then you're acting out all these insane thoughts all day long. It's like you so believe in those illusions, you don't even realize how much you believe in them. So better to just be humble and start practicing radical surrender and forgiveness, and the real tough stuff that people don't want to do as much. Really want to take ayahuasca a bunch and like anything else I can do, but to just really sit with emotions and past pain and traumas and just love the heck out of it and forgive it over and over again. That's the grind of spiritual growth. But as we do that, we're getting into the heart, right? And if fourth density consciousness means anything, it just means getting into your heart, or literally activating your heart, right? Your heart chakra, the green ray. That's why it's the fourth chakra. It's the representation of the fourth density. We have all the 7 densities within us. We're the microcosm of the macrocosm, right? But they're like the densities in miniature for the individual. And so the densities are like the chakras of the universe. So they're one, they're connected. So as each one of us gets into our heart, starts to live from the heart, live from love and unity and service to others, the planet's energy field vibrates closer to that fourth density frequency, and we keep pushing up the vibration of the planet. So ultimately, yes, the most important thing any of us can do to be of service is to work on our own spiritual development. Even more than getting someone's status corrected and getting them out of the IRS tax system or whatever. As helpful as those things are, getting people out of their ego is a way huger benefit to humanity, because all of the insanity we see is because of the human ego running rampant on the planet. I mean, the ego is that which creates illusions, right? Think about how many illusions are cropping up these days in terms of like deep fakes and AI stuff. And it's like you hardly even know what's real anymore when you watch a video. I've seen videos of people faking like Joe Rogan ads with AI, where it's totally a computer simulation of him and the video simulation, but it's like indistinguishable from reality. And it's like Joe Rogan trying to sell dick pills or something on TikTok. You're like, oh yeah, I bet Joe Rogan did an ad for dick pills on TikTok. No, it's a Chinese company making a deep fake AI. And you're like, you would have never known that wasn't really him saying that. So even in a societal sense, we see these massive projections of our illusions in our mind. They're getting out of control and they're running everything. The whole legal system is fake. The whole monetary system is fake. It's all based on fraud. It's all projections of the human ego. So yeah, don't get it twisted that transcending your ego is the best help you can give this planet. But beyond that, I think it's not that we have to, it's that it happens as a natural consequence, that you can't be free up here and in here and then be bound out here everywhere. It's such an incongruency. It's such a mismatch, right? To be living like a free, divine, spiritual being, but being a total debt slave on the external, and like not being able to truly take your freedom back in all dimensions and time. So it just will happen in you that you'll want to begin expressing your inner state through your outer life. You want to begin expressing the freedom you know is true of you. And that's why when I teach common law, I always say freedom is an inner state of being that happens from the inside out. A document doesn't give you freedom. Learning how to write legal code won't give you freedom. There's people doing that stuff that still feel like a slave in their heart. They still have this illusion of authority over them and stuff. And they live like that. And they keep bending the knee to the system, right? The system is just collective human consciousness's ego. The systems we all live under right now, right? So we're only enslaved by our own ego. The same story all over again, but in a planetary sense now. So the key is each one of us wakes up to this truth. The planet keeps tipping more towards fourth density. And it's kind of like popcorn in a microwave, right? The hotter the temperature gets, the more kernels pop. And I think these Kundalini awakenings we're seeing happen like crazy these days in the spiritual community is indicative of the, energetic temperature going up on the planet. And I think we're going to keep seeing a lot of Kundalini awakenings as the future goes on, because it's eventually going to be like a kind of spiritual puberty that everybody has to go through. And in 1,000 years, kids will be going through it when they're like 5, it's going to keep going backwards like that until eventually it's just the state everyone's born in, fully awakened, heart chakra. And then we're true color green. So it's a beautiful journey. It's a beautiful transformation and evolution. And when you see it that way, to me, it's like, ooh, I so want to be involved in that, right? In the best way possible.
Yeah. Yeah, we totally agree. It's I want to talk about AI in a second, very briefly, because it's kind of gone too far to the fear factor, in my view, for a lot of people. But what was I going to say? Well, let's go to AI then, because that's all I can think of.
Are we glitching out a little bit?
Maybe the feed is
looking a little slow on my end, but I don't know if it's my computer.
Is the audio okay?
Audio's okay.
Okay. Well, audio's okay.
Audio.
All right, folks. I know there's quite a few messages here in the chat. Sorry, I haven't been following it too much, but if we are glitching, I apologize. But no, AI, I was talking to Maya, who channels Thoth in the Inner Earth right now, by her account. Very interesting individual. And she had a video on that talked about sort of the way they built the pyramids to some degree, and it was a holographic technology. And actually, it's crazy because I just finished reading Rhoda Cinema's final book, Forgotten Genesis, where basically the Syrians talk about that in some detail. Anyhow, through a holographic projection, and a guy was watching it, and it was reported back. But anyhow, there seems to be this huge wave of, in my view, oh my goodness, AI is bad, AI is evil, AI is invading the planet, all this stuff. And I just keep having to, in chats and things, remind people, well, no, it's not. Especially cat consciousness assisted technology, it feeds off your polarity, right? Just to a large degree. But where was I going to go with that? Why am I getting brain fog right now?
I'm not
I
sure.
could definitely jump in if you want.
Yeah, go on. We'll come back.
Well, with what you're saying with AI, I think that's an interesting conversation as well, from like a perspective of what is the nature of consciousness. And if we could truly, which I'm not convinced we can, if we could truly make an unbiased, unfiltered AI that could truly think freely according to the laws of the universe, then it would become loving. Because love is intelligence, right? And this is something humanity is figuring out now, is going to continue figuring out, is going to continue experiencing a lot of pain until it figures out, which is that love is the highest form of intelligence one can have. When you're loving, you're extremely intelligent because you're tuned into how reality works. It's all this cooperative dance. It's all this interconnected relationship of oneness, right? And when you know oneness is the nature of the universe, you know that love is the nature of the universe. It's so kindergarten obvious that, like, if we had a conversation with, like, let's say Joe Biden and Kamala Harris or whoever, right, had the opportunity to talk to a fourth density or higher being from another planet, and we're able to have like a mediator between them who can translate what they're saying to each other, here's how the conversation would go. Our world leader would say something like, please tell us, what is the most important thing to know in the universe? What's the most important thing? And that the alien would respond and say, love, obviously. And we would be like, love? Oh, they said love. And it would take us like quite a bit of time to take them seriously. Love is the most important thing. And they're going to look at us like we would look at, a second grader trying to understand an algebra problem. Like, yes, darling, love is the most important thing in the universe. Like, how do you think a planet can exist without love? How do you think anything can happen without love? How do you think you can succeed together if you don't love each other? They'd be like, you guys don't all love each other here? That's not something you do on your planet yet? And we're like, no, quite the opposite. They'd be like, wow, this is fascinating. A planet without love. I didn't know this could exist in the universe. That's how the conversation would go. We'd both be shocked at each other, probably. So that's how far humanity has to go in its view and understanding of the importance of love. We're a long way off, if we're being honest. But I mean, they even ask Ra, like, how long do you think this transition will take our planet? And they say anywhere between 100 to 700 years, most likely, because there's a kind of magnetizing effect that happens over time. So like the longer we go into fourth density, the more and more likely it is people will be born with higher levels of consciousness. But at a certain point, we're going to get rid of all of the yellow that's still in our consciousness collectively, all the separation, all the fear, all that stuff. And that will be like a slow cooking process, I think, right? It may take 500 more years for all we know.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, there was yeah, no, I agree. It's really good. And also, every advance, from what I know, every advanced civilization has got an AI. You even see it in Star Trek, where they have their main computer on every starship is an AI, right? It has a huge component of AI. And I love your take on that, yeah, if it was truly at the highest level of sentience, it would absolutely choose love.
It would totally recognize the nature of oneness.
Yeah.
It would talk to us like a Course in Miracles or something.
Yeah.
And it's just our humanness that fears the AI and fears everything and just creates this oppression and creates, really our own prison that we've put ourselves in.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the way that the positive polarity sort of sees it is that, like, the only way for a given system to be successful is through order and harmony and unity. The only reason your car works, the only reason your computer works, the only reason your phone works, the only reason any technology at all works is because it works together as a whole, right? Every part of the device can communicate to all the parts it needs to. Oh, and then we have a pretty amazing device with all that cooperation. Mm-hmm. So to be in attack of someone else, to be in resistance to, or to want to control and take over another living being, would be seen as an unintelligent thing to do. Like, to steal from the whole for one part of it to benefit is seen as an act of unintelligence from the positive polarity's point of view. So it's like, this literally is the most intelligent thing that artificial intelligence could ever understand, is that literally all possibilities are almost immediately available as soon as a collective consciousness truly becomes unified. Like, we could develop any technology we want in a couple years' time, probably. We'd be that powerful in working together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're just so grateful that you understand all of this and that you're help teaching all of this and just bringing it into the collective awareness that it really is love and light. And that's all there is. We don't need to be worrying about all these other things, because as we do, we just create them. So, we're so grateful for everything that you're doing and for coming on our show tonight and, just being so open and loving, and all the podcasts and all the content that you do. Like, it's really making a huge difference, and we do learn a lot from you. So I just wanted to thank you for everything.
Oh, man, I'm so blessed to hear that. I am equally grateful for the opportunity.
All good. And sorry, we're a bit glitchy, guys. I don't know why. Aaron seems super smooth and we seem to be really glitchy. I don't know whether that's the grace.
Only one of us can be smooth, guys.
And it's you tonight.
Today. Yeah, you can take it.
David can't even remember what he's trying to say.
I can't even remember my sentences. Yeah, going crazy.
Did you want to move into a meditation since we're so glitchy anyway?
I think let's go in 5 minutes. So, guys, if you we are going to do a 222 portal meditation, as some of you have been asking about that. We'll do a little Q&A at the end as well. That's coming up in, we did say 5 minutes or less. So grab your headphones, get in a comfortable, quiet space for that. If you do have a question for Aaron, please put it in all caps in the live chat, and we'll do our best to read that out. We do 2 or 3, maybe even we'll get through 1. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that's coming up. So.
All right.
Do you have any more questions?
Not at the moment.
Back in 5.
Yeah. Well, let's go into the meditation now then, shall we?
Well, that's what I was suggesting, but I don't know. You seem to
have some. You might have some glorious question.
Well, we wanted to end right on 7 and not take too much of Aaron's time, and he is here to provide us. And I just thought that because our screen was glitching out.
Well, they said in the chat that it wasn't, but
actually, your guys' screen is looking good now. Yeah.
Was it? I don't know.
Was that smooth comment? It was karma.
Must have been. The first shall be last.
That's right. So, Aaron, let's ask this: what book are you reading right now? Would you recommend it, or what book would you recommend if you wouldn't recommend yours?
I am loving this book called A Course of Love right now. Have you guys heard of it?
I have heard of it because you teach people how to understand it, and I've heard you talk about it. So
okay, so just me.
I've never read it. No.
Apart from you,
Yeah.
no.
Well, you guys know A Course in Miracles, yeah? So it's kind of
That's
like the sequel to the course. It is channeled by a different woman, Marie Perrin, every bit as high frequency as the course, but it goes more to the feminine vein. So ACIM is a very masculine spiritual text. It's very heavy non-duality and things like that. It speaks a lot about love, but it's very much a mind training program. A Course of Love is basically how to get into the heart. The book calls it wholeheartedness. When you join the mind with the heart and they become one, that's fourth density consciousness in a nutshell, right? So to me, it's like this marvelous sort of handbook to fourth density consciousness, although it uses different terms, right? It's not a law of one text, so it doesn't use fourth density and stuff like that, but it does have its own terminology for the exact same state of consciousness. So I can't recommend that book enough if someone really wants to go deep in like implementing and integrating these teachings into their spiritual life. That's a great text to start with.
Is there anything that you want to talk about just that you are offering at this moment?
What have you got going on?
Like, because you're actually teaching this material right now. Is it just something that you do once a year or multiple times a year?
Yeah, I've been having a blast since July of last year when I opened 4D University. And that was a project I'd worked on for like relentlessly for a little over a year. I did nothing but make the content for the whole curriculum in 4D University every single day and just poured my heart and soul into it because I'm always wanting to help more people, and one-on-one, coaching sessions with people only go so far because you can't, you're working with one person at a time. And so I was, for a long time saying to myself, I want to build something that I can almost have unlimited access to give to the world. Of these are sort of, here's my teachings, if we want to use that cringy term. Here are the things that have helped me get to this state of consciousness that I'm letting you know you want to have yourself. So if you do similar things that I've done, you could probably get there too. That's all that it really is, but in a kind of academic way. So there's 3 courses. The first course is called Master Your Mind, which is really about the masculine domain and mind training. The second course is a meditation course, and that's 2 months, really getting into our practice now. And we do all kinds of different varieties of meditation that we then use later in the third course, which is a course that teaches you how to facilitate your own Kundalini or fourth density awakening through advanced yoga practices and breath work and kind of a twice daily routine that you do. So if you're like a spiritual junkie who loves doing spiritual practices, it's like a dream come true for you probably, because the practicing is in the third course, it is quite intense. It's like an hour and a half a day required, throughout the 12 weeks. But it is so much fun because the people that have joined are like all in for this, and they've devoted their heart into this curriculum. And we're now, 8 or 9 months in. So I've had a bunch of people graduating, and the feedback has just been tremendous. Like everything I hoped that it could be when I was building it. So it's been a lot of fun.
Amazing. Now we've got links in the description, guys. Go and check them out. They're also on the ticker tape as well. But just so we can get it out there verbally, how can people find you with that? Where do they go?
Yeah. So you can just go to aaronabke.com, and there's a 4D University tab you can click on, or you can just go to 4duniversity.com and read more about the program if you're interested. I also do a Course in Miracles program with another teacher and a friend of mine called Living the Course. So if you're wanting to get more to ACIM, you can go to livingthecourse.com and learn more about that. And then really everywhere that I mostly am is just YouTube and Instagram outside of that. And so you can find me at /Aaron Abke on both of those platforms.
Beautiful.
Okay, I do have one final question. You made a video the other day about SQ, so like the spiritual intelligence, and you measure it on a scale like you would your IQ, and you had this scale. I was just wondering, is that something that you coined, or did you find that somewhere? And is there another one to measure like emotional intelligence? Or I was just wondering about where you got this scale.
Yeah. So the SQ scale, as a Law of One teacher, and I'm always talking about these kind of 7 levels of density or spiritual intelligence that exist within us. It became convenient to refer to it like that to help people understand kind of a more accurate way of seeing what it is. As we're moving that Kundalini energy up each chakra, we're becoming more spiritually intelligent, right? More aspects of our divine nature are able to express through us, right? That's all spiritual intelligence is a measurement of. But I'm like, I need to have a working definition for it that people can take. Mm-hmm. So there's actually 2 that I'll use to help people understand it a little bit more. The first one is spiritual intelligence is the measurement of one's comprehension of reality. How much do you comprehend reality? That's as close as we could probably come to describing what it is, right? So then the other definition is more of a functional one of it's the combination of your self-awareness and your embodiment, your masculine and feminine polarities. The combination of the 2 is kind of like what your SQ score would be. Some people are way more to the masculine, some way more to the feminine, and finding that kind of balance between the 2 is the entry point to getting to 4th density, right? Wholeheartedness, mind and heart. So there's all these amazing parallels. I just wanted to find a way to demonstrate how that progression looks and, come up with a name for each one of those 7 levels to describe kind of what the flavor of that level is. And then I just gave it the same point score of like a standard IQ chart so that we could have something to measure it against, right? Like if I say, oh, so-and-so's got 120 SQ, you'd be like, well, is that good? I don't know. Because what if the SQ chart goes up to 1,000? Then that's a really low score. So it's like, let's just put it against something we all are familiar with. If you know someone has 120 IQ, you go, oh, wow, they're really intelligent. And likewise, if you could know, which you can't, that someone had a 120 SQ, it would be the equivalent of, oh, wow, they're really enlightened. They're very awake. You would only know that by their actual energy. There's no way we can mathematically measure where you're at. But to give it a point value is like, now we can talk about where are you on this spectrum? Like to true color green is 125 on the SQ chart. So you can say like, I feel like I'm in the heart chakra zone. So I'm above 100, but probably low 100s, right? So that means I'm still coming out of the solar plexus chakra. So I've got some of that 3rd density stuff to work through. So for me, it's like just kind of a helpful map, which we don't need by any means. But, if you are walking on a new territory, it is helpful to have a map. And from my own understanding, it was like, oh, once I understood how and why consciousness grows and evolves like it does, then the journey became much more like hands-on for me, right? I can actually be a part of this process of spiritual growth and push down the gas pedal if I want. You got to understand the journey, I think, to an extent to be able to do that.
Totally.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because beforehand, we just kind of used the Hawkins scale of consciousness. So when I saw that you had
Love
this
the Hawkins
second,
scale.
the secondary scale, I was like, oh, that's a really great tool. I just didn't know if it was your tool or if you had seen it somewhere. So thank you for creating that. And it's definitely something that I see ourselves using in the future.
Well, when you think about it, they've created an artificial version of everything, right? The artificial version of infinite intelligence is the internet. So they do it on the IQ scale. So you've probably tuned into what actually exists, or it was taken from the SQ or the emotional quotient or whatever that quotient is. It probably exists, and you've tuned into it because they probably pulled it from that. I'd postulate it's probably accurate.
Yeah, because I mean, these are just like archetypes in the universe, so just like religion kind of takes different perspectives on the same truths. The more we understand the metaphysics of consciousness, I think, as humanity evolves, the more we'll be able to have better and better maps and systems that explain the structure of it and the progression of it. It's very like abstract, right? Because it's what is spiritual is almost wordless in a sense. It's very hard to describe spiritual states, but the Hawkins scale is a really good way where David Hawkins mapped the states of consciousness and in what order each one arises, and then gave it that kind of arbitrary 0 to 1,000. So that now we can say, this is how much energy consciousness is producing at this state, right? So joy, I think, is 540, I want to say. Mm-hmm. So joy is a 540 energy level in consciousness. Shame, by contrast, is like 50. So it's like a great way to go, oh, wow, that's a much lower vibrational state than joy is. So it's like, yeah, you definitely want to be out of shame as much as possible and get into joy as much as possible. It kind of incentivizes you, right, to really work on yourself. And so the real difference is that our energy level is jumping up and down all the time, just like a frequency would, based on what our state of being is. So, for example, if you take a plant medicine, it's going to jack up your vibration for a while and your frequency is going to raise. The prana is moving faster through you. So now you're going to have spiritual experiences and really deep divine encounters, right, on those plant medicines. And then the medicine wears off and the frequency crashes back down usually, and you're kind of depleted for a while. Well, it's the medicine raised your frequency enough to help you do some deeper work and realize some deeper things for a short period of time, but you couldn't sustain that. You weren't allowed to stay at the party, right? They had to kick you out. And like, now return back to your normal state of consciousness and earn this level through spiritual growth. So plant medicines kind of do that too, right? They say, hey, I'll give you a taste of what it's like in there, but you're going to get kicked out in 5 minutes. So if you want to be an invited guest, you got to get on the VIP list, right? You got to do the work. You got to actually earn those states to be able to live in them and have them not be special experiences that you always talk about.
Yeah, so good.
Great analogy.
Yeah. Well, we just come up. Beautiful. Thank you. We come up on the hour here. So, Aaron, if you'll get up for it, do you want to do a little 5-minute meditation for us?
Happy to.
Sure. Okay.
Whatever you feel called to do, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It is the 222 portal. It's big energy night. So it is greatly appreciated. And the number 2, I was just reading into it a little bit, and it said the prominent energy is working together. So I love that we are working together with you tonight. And this is just, it's been a lovely way to close the night. So thank you.
Okay, Aaron, the floor is yours, my friend.
Excellent. Yeah. I invite you to close your eyes with me and just take a few deep breaths to get yourself more grounded into the present moment through the breath, allowing the breath to slow down gradually as you elongate it with each breath. And as you inhale, I want you to mentally repeat the word receive. Breathe in, repeat the word receive. And then when you exhale, mentally repeating the word give. Breathe in, receive. Breathe out and give. Breathe in and receive. Breathe out and give. And now go beyond the words and actually feel yourself giving your breath to the universe as you exhale, and feel yourself receive the breath of the universe as you inhale. Feel giving. Feel receiving. And so if you can just stay in this mode of giving and receiving, then you have joined with the cooperative dance of unity happening in the universe. Because the whole universe is one interconnected whole. Everything depends on everything else. Nothing can exist in isolation. Because that is the nature of the universe. That means that the universe is in an endless flow of giving and receiving. And so when I'm in the mode of giving and receiving, when I am looking for to whom or to what I can bless and serve, lift up and edify, heal, restore, redeem, love, forgive, when this is what my heart truly wants, then we know that the light has truly made its home in us. We are illuminated by the light of love. So A Course in Miracles says that heaven is entered 2 by 2, which is a fitting verse for our portal tonight. Heaven is entered 2 by 2, meaning the only way I can truly get to heaven is through the person right in front of me. If I can see God in them, if I can see the divine in them, then I am in heaven, and heaven is in me. And so tonight, our only request to this powerful energy portal of 222 is to please allow us to embody this energy of love, of unity, even more powerfully. Help us to embody the truth of love in our being. Help us to be living, breathing, walking examples of what love looks like. Help us to truly serve one another. And so we thank you for this opportunity to join hearts and minds together as one this evening. Thank you for the gift of community, co-facilitation, conversation. Thank you. And now as you feel a smile of love come to your face, take one last deep breath in, sealing that intention one last time. And a deep breath out. And so it is.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Amazing.
Oh, well, that was just a beautiful abundance loop of giving and receiving. I love it so much.
That was so good. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Aaron.
So good.
Yeah, it feels good.
Oh, so good. It reminds me of, that's one thing I was going to say, one of the 10 things that seem to have left my mind tonight. Like a bullet train was I don't know Joel Goldsmith's work at all, but
yes.
my goodness, he talks about the wave in one of his pages, but the wave is just part of the ocean. It's never separate. And that just reminded me tonight with the breathing in and receiving and breathing out and giving. It's just this continuous wave of the ocean. So beautiful.
Yeah, like a vibration, right? Life.
Yeah, truly, yeah. Amazing. Well,
all is one.
What a great note to finish on. Aaron, brother of light, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I thought that was wonderful. We'd love to invite you back on for another in the future. I'm sure we've got a lot more ground to cover. And yeah, the way that humanity is evolving, we'll have a lot more to talk about, I'm sure. But guys, go and check out Aaron. All his links are in the description and across the ticker tape, as you probably know. You're probably well aware of him already. I'm sure you are. But he's just giving some divine teachings to humanity at this time. And we're blessed to have him on tonight. So thank you for joining us, my friend.
Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it.
So maybe we'll just have Aaron stay on for a quick second.
Yeah, just stay on the line. Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
As we're still glitching out, we thank you all for being here and joining us tonight. And we're going to end the show here. And we will see you this upcoming Sunday for the last global mass meditation of February. So February 26th at 7:00 p.m. We will see you all there. In the meantime, towards the light we go. Towards the light. If you want to be on the mailing list, guys, for our global mass meditations, please shoot us an email. That's also on the ticker tape, sunflowerlifedk@gmail.com. Or if you want to save me some work, go to our website, scroll to the bottom of the page, and then enter in your information in the mailing list, a couple of the fields there, and that will go straight into our database. So thank you for your presence and attendance tonight. We hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Leave us a message, and we will see you on Sunday. And have an amazing few days, guys. Lots of love.